Good morning, everyone. So it's January 2nd, which means today I start my Ironman training. Today's workout is going to be a 5-mile run and a 20-mile ride. I got up a little bit later than I thought I would, and I'm still not feeling 100% from getting over my cold, but I'm feeling good enough to go out and try and train. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you know how it all goes. Hey everybody, so I just got done with my first sort of official training for the Ironman. I just went and ran about I think it's about 5.7 miles. My Garmin wasn't charged very well before I went out for my run, so it actually died about halfway through. I was just taking a nice easy pace, about 8 to 8.5 minute miles, nothing too crazy. I didn't have any pain in my legs, which is good, so hopefully my problem I was having with my shins and the muscles in my lower leg is finally resolving itself, and hopefully it doesn't flare back up. But anyway, yeah, so feeling good. I was still a little tired though, a little run down from being sick, but didn't feel awful, so I should still be good to go out for my 20-mile ride a little bit later today. I'm gonna take a couple hours of rest, throw on my compression socks and do some homework, and then head on out for my ride, and I will check in with you guys after that. Hey everybody, so I just got back from my adventure of trying to ride 20 miles for my first day of Ironman training, and I had a little bit of an oops. So I took a nasty fall while I was out riding and banged my leg up something nasty. I got a little bit of road rash, tore open some bits of skin, had some nice blood running down my leg, and jacked up my elbow. So basically what happened was I went to go ride around the lake for my ride because I thought that'd be an easy way to get my 20 miles in. Unfortunately, there were a bunch of families and other people taking advantage of the nice weather as well and using the path. So in lieu of running into someone and possibly crashing into a small child, I decided I would go out on the road and do a route that I had done once before and try and do that to get my 20 miles in instead of trying to dodge people the whole 20 miles doing loops around the lake. So as I was out riding, there's one section of the road where the bike lane ends and then it picks up again on the other side of the highway. And as I was entering the bike lane after it had ended and it was starting up again on the road, I was riding on that narrow section of cement from the sidewalk that sticks out into the road a little bit. And I knew I shouldn't be riding there because it's really narrow. I could potentially run into the curb, run into the sidewalk, knock myself over. So I decided that I needed to move over into the left of the bike lane a little bit more and get myself up off the cement onto the asphalt section of the bike lane and actually be riding on the asphalt. And as soon as I started moving my bike to the left to try and pull myself onto the asphalt, I realized I just made a huge mistake because that seam where the cement from the sidewalk meets the asphalt, there was a couple inch difference, or maybe an inch difference between the height of the cement and the height of the asphalt. So the asphalt had bubbled up and was higher than the cement. So as I tried to pull myself over onto the asphalt, the bike wouldn't go over and I went down and skidding out into the middle of the road. Fortunately, no one ran me over, so thankfully I'm relatively in one piece and no one actually hit me, and some nice folks actually did stop. They must have seen me go down pretty hard and they pulled out and stopped in the turn lane to make sure I was okay. After I dragged myself out of the road quickly so that I wasn't about to get run over and checked out my bike was pretty banged up, or seemed to be pretty banged up. I was banged up. I had blood on my knee. I had nice road rash running down my leg, and my left elbow wasn't feeling too great and wasn't moving very easily. So I had my cell phone with me. I called my roommate. She came, she grabbed me and picked me up, took me to see my sports doctor. They got me in, cleaned all the blood off of me, cleaned up those wounds and wrapped them. I'll show you guys a picture of what I look like. As I was waiting for my roommate to grab me, I took a picture of my leg so you can see the gore and blood in all of its glory. So if you don't like blood and you're squeamish, you might want to close your eyes for a few seconds. So this is the section of the road where I crashed, and this is what my leg looked like afterwards. So then I got to the doctor's office. My main concern was my elbow. They took an x-ray, and they took an x-ray because the doctor was concerned about my ability to have sort of full range of motion with my elbow. So what he had me do is, because this is the elbow that's messed up. So normally if you're fine, nothing's wrong with your elbow, you can move your elbow back and forth and you can touch your thumb to your shoulder like this. When I try and do that with this elbow, I get about that far, and that's about as close as I can get to my shoulder. Then the other thing, if your elbow is not injured and you're okay, you can stretch your arm out, you can rotate, you can flip your palm up, and you have the ability to just extend your arm out all the way. So if I try and do this with my banged up arm, I can't easily rotate my arm so that my palm's up anymore, and I can't extend that arm all the way. And that's actually a little bit worse than while I was at the doctor's office. I was able to do a little bit more while I was there. But the swelling has gone up on the elbow, and it's hurting a lot more. But so they took an x-ray to see if they could see any fracture in there. There is no fracture that they could find in there while they were looking at the x-ray. But as I had explained to me, apparently elbow fractures sometimes are a little hard to see, or they don't show up right after you break it, and sometimes it takes a little bit or a few days to a week for the fracture to really show up on an x-ray. And so I may or may not have a broken elbow. If in a week my elbow is still not feeling very good, and if I don't have any range of motion in it, I'll go back in. They'll take some more x-rays of me, in which case my guess is they'll probably see that I have a fractured elbow. I'm not in a cast or a splint or sling or anything, because I guess when you break your elbow and sort of where it's hurting in my elbow, and when someone fractures their elbow, there's not really anything they can do for it. It's sort of like breaking a toe. They don't cast those fractures, because if they cast them and your arm is just sort of sitting at your side the whole time, your elbow locks up that way when it's healing. So that you actually have to keep it out of a cast so that you have some range of motion. And if it were broken, what they do is they'll put people in a sling for a few days, maybe to a week anyway, before they take them out of the sling and just let the elbow heal completely out of a sling or splint or cast or anything like that. So I could have a broken elbow right now. Hopefully not. Hopefully in the next few days it starts to calm down and the swelling goes down and it stops hurting, and hopefully I just banged it up bad enough that it's just really, really hurting. But if in a week I still can't really move my elbow, then chances are I might have broken it, and that's going to certainly put me out at least for swimming, for training for probably the first 6 weeks while I heal. I should be able to run, I think, a little bit. Biking will be questionable, at least out on the road. I could probably stationary bike or be inside on a trainer and still be able to get some miles in for that. But yeah, so that was the end of my first day of training for the Ironman, and it might end up being the end to some training for a little while. Probably tomorrow. Tomorrow I was supposed to swim. I won't be going into the pool tomorrow. I will let you guys know what happens. Hopefully this isn't broken, and hopefully it gets healing quick.